Every year, thousands report the same experience. Abductions, missing time, and encounters with beings not from this earth. They were taken, and now they're telling their stories. This is Taken, the Abduction Files.
Hi everyone, my name is Lauren Wyoff. I've had quite a few ET experiences, primarily with the Pleiadians, Arcturians, Lyrans as well, and with technology. So
Nice. I love that.
yeah.
So when did you have your first experience?
So I mean, even in childhood, I feel like I always felt like I was observed, if that makes sense.
It does.
And then my first real ET experience, I guess that you could say, happened almost a decade ago. And what happened was, it, of course, happened when I was sleeping. And I woke up on the ship. So,
Wow, okay.
yeah, I think a lot of times people, they they have screen dreams is what I call them, where you're kind of having a dream, but it's kind of masking, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And then for me, though, I woke up and I was on a silver table, silver metal table, and there were four, they looked like grays, but they weren't grays. And there were four gray-like beings around me. And then there was one tall being, blonde hair, very light skin, and it was dressed in blue.
So more humanoid, more human looking, I guess I should say.
Yes.
So maybe like the oh my gosh, I just had a brain. The they don't call them Scandinavians. I just can't think of the word for them right now. But the ones that look just like us, but they're, blonde hair, blue eyes, those ones.
Yeah. This being was about 8 feet tall, though. So
Okay.
very, very tall.
Okay.
And they were at the head and they were observing what these four gray-like beings were doing. And they were doing something to my uterus. And I woke up and then I looked around and I saw all these tables with different people on them. Yep.
Different human beings on them.
Yep.
Okay.
And then when I woke up, they saw that I woke up and then I was seeing things and then I went back.
Yeah, that they fixed that real quick, didn't they?
Yeah. Yeah.
If you had to guess, how many other people on tables would you say there were?
Oh, hundreds.
Oh, that many. Wow.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. Not all of the tables were full. But yeah, it was a whole like medical center.
Right. Was that a really big room?
Yes.
Okay. What would you say it's the size of? If you had to compare that room to something, like maybe a conference room in a hotel, like way bigger.
I would say maybe almost the size, not like like half or 3/4 the size of a football field.
Okay.
Like it was a big room.
Pretty big.
Yeah. And yeah, I woke up, wasn't supposed to. And then the next morning, and at this point, I had no knowledge of ETs or, anything about Pleiadians. I had just kind of seen the stuff on TV. at that point. And so for me, a lot of the experiences that I've had, I have the experience first before I have the kind of indoctrination of a lot of the information that's out here now.
Okay. Yeah.
And so, yeah, I woke up the next day and I felt completely different. I knew that something changed in me. And I just started asking questions and I was like, hey, I know that you were working on me. What were you doing to my uterus? That was my biggest concern. Um,
And
and
in what way were you asking questions?
telepathically.
Okay.
Yeah. I was connecting with that frequency of what I felt in the dream. Because now I have an energy signature, right?
Right.
And so yeah, just saying, hey, what were you doing to my uterus? And the answer I got was, well, they told me a couple things. They said that they were upgrading me because I'm here to help new children co-create. I'm
Okay.
here to teach them to co-create. And then they also showed me the human orgasm is here, like that is a remembrance for us to remember like how much light that we actually hold in our body.
Okay.
The human orgasm shows us our potential. It
Okay.
helps us
Yeah.
remember.
As a Scorpio myself, I get that. And, I don't think people realize, the power behind those.
Yep.
So, I get it. I understand.
Absolutely.
Nice.
Yeah, and so ever since then, I know that experience was on the Pleiadian ship. And then a couple years later, I started to get more introduced to a lot of the Starseed trainings and initiations, if you will.
Okay.
And realized that the mothership or the Starship of Bethlehem hosts about 33 different species on the ship. And they have the most kind of bloodlines running on the planet right now and the most at play.
Okay.
And so I realized that that was on the Starship of Bethlehem.
I don't think I heard. Okay. I haven't heard that one yet.
Yeah. And so now, and I've woken up with other experiences, but the Pleiadians for me is kind of the easiest one to crack.
Okay.
Where now I don't have to like fully wake up and really observe the rooms and stuff like that. The texture of the experience has changed.
Okay. Ever since that first contact, the first time on the ship.
Yes. Because now it's all energy, it's vibration and,
Yeah.
and
But do
frequency.
you feel like that activated something in you? That first visit?
Yeah. Yeah.
For sure.
It is, I think that when you have real and true authentic experiences,
Mm-hmm.
rather than, and this is what I kind of, why I do keep to myself so much, is I don't like outside influences kind of shaping
Right.
my experiences. And so when you have those real and true encounters with these beings, like you can't know it. These are things.
Right. Because you're not hearing it coming from everybody else and going, okay, that's what that, or knowing it beforehand is kind of where you're getting at, right?
Yeah, they're real and true.
Yeah. All the information that you get is from your experience.
Yeah, and I think that they're also bloodline activations.
Yeah, I actually believe that too.
Yep, yep. I think that there's a part of, and this is what I really like to mention as well, is it's like these experiences will come at the right time, you know. And if you try to push through and like kind of force these experiences, a lot of times, your soul isn't mature enough to handle the awareness and the consciousness. And, if the soul isn't ready or mature enough to hold the energy, like your life can get so rocked in ways that you can't imagine. Like you really have to be grounded in who you are before trying to force having these experiences.
Right. Now, when you say force having these experiences, what do you mean by that?
I think like trying to like access certain realms that you might not have rites of passage to, so to speak. I just think there's just levels of integrity when it comes to like I've also seen a lot of people who say that they're channeling, and it's like something doesn't, the overlap isn't right there, you know, and really understand when it's from your soul that you're connecting to or from your mind. I guess that's kind of the difference there.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, what else did you learn after that? Well, I guess tell me about the next experiences after that. Let's go there instead.
So I guess one of the, well, I'll tell you the ET one, then another ET one, and then I'll tell you the technology one.
Okay.
So the ET one, this was by the Arcturians.
Okay.
And so
gotta love the Arcturians.
I do. They're so, I don't have to, it's a different kind of peace.
Yeah.
You know?
They don't really have an agenda in the way that we think of agendas here on Earth.
Right.
Yeah.
Like they
well, they do, but it's always to help, I think.
Yep.
I think they do have an agenda, but it's, a good one, I think, not a bad one.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah, they feel incredibly neutral to me. And that just makes me feel really connected to truth. So, yeah, so the Arcturian, so a lot of times what's interesting is when I get around certain people, my body and my being will start vibrating. And I can kind of feel and sense the different bloodlines that people are carrying, right?
Okay.
And my guides were telling me to stay the night at a friend's house, and I didn't understand why until that night. And I knew when I was looking at her and her child, I was like, oh, they carry a lot of Arcturian energy, right?
Okay.
But beyond and don't really have the awareness, to
Yeah.
kind of play there. And so when I was sleeping at night, there were again 4 beings around me, and I woke up again. So I could only imagine what's on my like galactic.
Must just be a thing with you, yeah.
my galactic passport. It's like give her extra, numbing cream.
That's funny.
And yeah, so again, I woke up, but what I experienced was although I had they weren't working on my physical body. It was like my energetic body was above me, and
Okay.
four beings were around me, and they were working on my genetics, but their technology was in their fingers,
Okay.
and they were just working on my genetics and energy body.
Nice.
Yeah. And yeah, so the Arcturians are way quicker. They are way sharper.
They're just so much more advanced.
So much more advanced. They are
Okay.
light years ahead of the Pleiadians. I mean, it's not even close.
Yeah.
And so I got put to sleep very fast, and I when I'm visited now by the Arcturians when I'm sleeping, the energy signature is so faint that I can't even tell when they're visiting me anymore.
Oh, wow.
So the Pleiadians, however, I wake up and I'm like, okay, I was on the Starship of Bethlehem last night. I understand that I was, working with the Pleiadians. Like that, there's a kind of softness and a presence that I can feel that the energy signature is much more like obvious now, you know.
Okay. Yeah.
Uh, the Arcturians, no, they shut it down.
Mhm.
uh, yeah, but being able to kind of open up the consciousness, connecting with the Pleiadians is a
Yeah.
much more smoother pathway, easier path.
Yeah. Imagine what our world would be like if we had that kind of, you know, positive intention, first of all, and then, those kind of, I don't want to say skills, but those kind of, higher dimensional, ways of being. I think
Yeah,
we're getting there. We're getting there. We're working on it.
we're
We're working on it.
yeah. And that's kind of what I'm seeing happening is over these next, 3 to 5 years, I think a lot more people are going to, for one, have more experiences and really start talking about them.
Yeah.
Um, because I think that a lot of the parents and the guardians, if you will, and guides and elders, um, I think that a lot of their energy is going to be renewed and like they're so grounded, but I think that they're also going to really evolve with the new frequencies coming on the planet.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that a lot of that is like the parents and the adults and the grandparents and everything. We're going to start to really unify, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and I think that that's necessary before these new children start coming onto the planet.
Yeah. I'm of the opinion that some of those are already kind of coming onto the planet. And you look at the indigo kids and stuff like that. They can. Gosh, I'm trying to remember her last name. I want to say Corey, but have you ever watched Caroline Corey? I think that's her last name. And if I'm wrong, I'm sorry, Caroline. But she works with these kids that are just absolutely amazing. You can put a blindfold on them and they can read and they can, all that kind of stuff. I think it's kind of I think we're in that state right now where we need to guide them in that way. You know what I mean? And I feel like it's going that way, but I think it's just going a little bit slower. If we don't put all that crazy programming in them until from, birth to 7,
Yeah.
I think that will help, you know. I
Yeah.
wish I would have known that back when my kid, I've got my kids 37, 36, and 30.
Mhm.
I've got three grandkids, two here, and I've got a great grandson. And I wish, now he's young enough to be able to, knowing what I know now. But when my kids were young, you don't know that stuff. No one teaches you,
Yep.
So yeah, it's definitely going to take the elders that, have their eyes open to help our, our new souls coming in,
Mhm. Mhm.
for sure.
Yeah.
So keep going with your experiences though. I want to hear more. This is good.
Okay, so this next one, I guess I'll share about the technology.
Okay.
This one, I wouldn't say necessarily is a positive experience, but it's really good for the audience to know.
Okay.
So this happened a couple years ago, and at the time, I would sleep with. I was just in a phase where I wanted to listen to music while I was going to sleep, right? Um,
I do the same thing.
yeah, and so I had my phone relatively close to my bed, and I would just, fall asleep. And uh, I think I was like going through a breakup or something at that time. At that time, I had, you know, um, I was processing a lot of strong emotion, right?
Right.
Um, and in what, and of course, this again happened when I was sleeping. And out of nowhere, um, I just had started having this like extreme nightmare. Like, and it was like kind of like my most feared like, thing that I could ever possibly like fear,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
Deep in my spirit. And then I started to feel again, started to kind of like my soul is like sleeping with one eye open, so to speak, now. And I'm starting to kind of have some awareness because my heart rate is speeding up.
Yeah.
And I still sleeping, but in a different octave now.
Okay.
And I just started feeling these like signals coming to my body, right? And it felt like something was almost like attaching to my body. Yeah. And
Like Spider-Man doing the spider web and like kind of like
yep,
that
yep,
kind of thing. Okay.
yep, exactly. Um, and uh, and so I was like observing, and so like had I got enough awareness while I was still sleeping, so to speak.
Yeah.
Uh, and I observed and I just watched where the signals were coming from and how it was attaching to my body, and it was coming from my phone, and it was attaching to my emotions.
Ah,
It
okay.
somehow it was connecting to my emotional body. And
Mhm.
so I just woke up, and I obviously like put my phone in the other room, and I have not slept with my phone next to my bed.
Yeah.
Um, and
It's
so,
not a good idea anyway with all the 5G that they're pumping out. I switched mine back to 4G. I don't even use 5G anymore. We don't need it.
yep,
It's just all the extra stuff they're trying to bombard us with.
yep,
It's like probably exactly. Yeah. Or you can
absolutely,
just put it in a Faraday cage and or whatever, you know what I mean? Because most people still use their phones for their alarm to wake up.
yep,
You know what I mean? I mean, I usually end up waking up a little bit before it goes off, anyways, but not the point. When you need to be up at a certain time. But yeah, I wonder if an alarm. I need to look into that. I wonder if an alarm would work if you've got your phone in the Faraday cage. It should still work. It doesn't. It's not using signal.
mm, mm,
It still works on airplane mode, so I don't know why. I have to look into that though. Now that I think about it,
mm.
for sure. Okay, so back to this experience, you had this really bad dream, and then you were able to see where it was coming from. And was that the end of that experience? What happened in, during the experience? Was it just the bad dream and then everything was okay when you woke up and figured out what was going on, or?
Yeah, actually. So I woke up, put my phone somewhere in the living room, and it took me a little bit to go back to sleep, and I did not sleep
After a nightmare like that. Yeah.
yeah, and even just to again have that awareness of, whoa, like that just happened, right? And what does that mean,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
And so that I don't even know if I really slept that night, honestly.
If you did, it was very light because you didn't, yeah, I would imagine.
Yeah, and then the next day I woke up and I had to go for a run. I had to get back in my I went for a run and I went to the gym. I had to get back into my body
Right.
and really connect,
Ground in it.
ground and connect with my
Yeah.
body and just feel the intensity of the breath, right? Be like,
Yeah.
okay, no, I'm here.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, and uh, something that I'll kind of add to that as well, um, with the different experiences that I have had, and including that one, um, I think when people have ET experiences or just, very intense, abnormal experiences, uh, I think that a lot of people don't, that mental health isn't talked about enough.
Oh, yeah. I think it's getting better. I mean, think about when, like when I was a kid, I'm 54. And when I was a kid, going to counseling or therapy or anything like that was just unheard of, you know. But nowadays, you can do it on your phone. You can, they've got it for text. You can tell how, you know what I mean? There's so many resources, and like hypnotherapy, like what I do, or, just any of the other kind of things that can help. I think it's getting better. I think it's just, a matter of time. But it seems like therapy is all over the place now. And I was reading a study one day. I can't remember who did it, but I think they said it was a high number. I think it was like 70 or 80% of people do some sort of therapy, whether it be talk or, any of the other kinds of therapy.
Mhm.
So I think it's getting better, but yeah.
Well, also, like when people have these ET experiences, you feel insane.
Yeah.
I mean, because
Yeah. You think you've just lost it. Yep.
you and sometimes you're like, I don't even know how to connect back into this reality.
Yeah.
I
Because
and
your whole world changes.
Yep.
Because 9 times out of 10, at least when it comes to the experiencers I've talked to, 9 times out of 10, they didn't have any interest in UFOs or aliens or any of that kind of stuff. Like, some people do. Personally, I have never had an abduction experience, but I have always been fascinated and with aliens, UFOs, looking at the stars at night, the whole 9 yards, anything woo woo. So them having that kind of experience, yeah, it's going to rock your world when it's like the farthest thing away from you. I can imagine that just completely changes your life.
Absolutely. And so when I first moved to Arizona as well, my entire, I was just listening to my guides, and they told me this is where you're supposed to be. And so I always allow my spirit to lead, you know,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
I own it and I trust it. And so when I first moved to Arizona, 6 years ago, my entire world got, I mean, rocked,
Yeah.
right? And
Especially coming from where you came from, it's such a different climate and scenery and just the whole 9 yards.
yeah, and so that, as well as when you're really listening to your soul and your spirit, that the vibrational and resonant difference
Hmm.
can can take an adjustment period.
Yeah.
And so yeah, when I first moved to Arizona 6 years ago, I mean, everything in my material life was like being ripped and taken away, and everything was just being removed from my life. And but at night, I was being shown, these ETs would visit me, and they would show me all these technologies that are not yet on the planet, or at least revealed to us, right?
Right. Yeah. I think there's a lot of stuff that we have that we just don't know about.
Yep.
Well,
Uh,
some of us kind of know, but
right.
depends on what circles you're in, I guess. But yeah.
Yep. And so every night for nights in a row, they would show me these healing technologies. Um, and so I would have these experiences at night, with this like most loving, profound, I mean, like, um, it was like, okay, why are you showing me this? Kind of thing. And then when I would wake up in the morning, it was like, oh my gosh, like, at the time, it was like, I'm sleeping on an air mattress. I can barely afford food, all these things. But I was having these, given these instructions, so to speak. Uh,
Yeah.
and so that as well, kind of tapping into, again, the mental health aspect is like the worlds, I think, are now kind of conjoining,
They're
uh,
yeah, they're getting there for sure.
right?
But
But
I also think, not to interrupt you, but I also think that when we lose everything like that, in our physical surroundings, I feel like that's a fresh start spiritually, and spiritually, and you know what I mean?
yep,
So, and I think some of us need that
yep,
for sure. I mean, I know I've been through that too, so I get it.
yep, yep. People who go through fires, right?
Oh
Have,
my goodness. Oh,
yep,
yeah. I haven't lost it in that way, but yeah, that would be awful. Oh,
yeah,
it's so sad. Like
yeah,
all those people in, California that lost all their homes. And I mean, I have a whole opinion about that, but we're not going to get into that for this.
right,
But, gosh, just one day it's there and the next day it's not.
yep.
It's terrible. So, what kind of technologies were they showing you?
Um, there was a couple of them. One of them, they were showing me an egg,
Okay.
not the harmonic egg. This was different. It was in the shape of an egg.
Okay.
And so there's a couple different ones that they were showing me, but yeah, one of them was a in the shape of an egg, and it was like this was more frequency and colors that they were doing.
Okay.
And then another one was, um, and they keep coming in my dreams and keep showing me this. However, I don't have they're not showing me the specs. So if anybody is listening, and
Right. Yeah.
having this as well, like, please contact me. I would love to connect and see if we can create this, if we're both getting that lens. Um, but they would show me, one of them was I had no idea what med beds were.
I was just going to ask, that was my next question, was what are med beds?
Yes, yes. And
Okay.
they showed me a couple different ones. And again, this was years ago. I had no idea
Before the whole med bed thing blew up in the communities and right.
Right, absolutely. And so, yeah, they would show me, you would go into this tube and they would be scanning and, doing all the frequencies and all of that. And then recently, um, they've been showing me, it's almost like a hyperbaric chamber.
Okay.
It's oxygen and plasma in it, inside of it. And it's like a tube, but it's not like an MRI tube. So
Okay.
kind of like how you would imagine a hyperbaric,
Right.
right? The tube of it, but there's plasma inside of it, and it emits frequencies, oxygen and frequencies. So the frequencies are like being absorbed into the body with the oxygen. So yeah, and there's more that I could go into, but I think I'll keep it there with that technology.
Okay. Yeah,
But
those med beds, it seems like, just from listening to people talk and following certain people and whatnot, it seems like they're trying to get those out like ASAP.
yeah,
But,
well, yeah, we'll see.
hopefully, I mean, we could sure use them.
We
You
definitely,
know?
absolutely.
I mean, I'm good physically. I don't really have any ailments, but my husband has it's called cervical stenosis on his neck,
Yep.
where his spinal column is, if you look at it from a side view, he's probably got maybe 70% blocked off at that section. You know what I mean? Something like that would help tremendously for those kind of things, let alone everything else, but
Absolutely. So my background is I have a master's degree in Oriental medicine.
okay.
Yeah, so I've been in the healing arts for 14 years now.
Nice.
And so for your husband, acupuncture is phenomenal.
I just found somebody here. I did not even know that we had someone here. And somebody told me, I was like, what? And so, yeah, I've actually been speaking with her
Oh, good.
lately. So,
Good.
yeah. We were looking into, I wanted him to try matrix repatterning.
Okay.
And I guess chiropractors do it a lot and stuff. He won't let me do hypnosis on him. And we could do, different things. The chiropractor, kind of, but yeah, I think the acupuncture for sure. And so, yeah, we're getting him in and we're going to start, because it's just, that pain is that's terrible.
Yep.
Not fun to live with. For sure.
There's another one. This isn't necessarily, it's a technology, but it's kind of more of I guess you would say, tracking system,
Okay.
so to speak, where I've had this many experiences where I'm like walking on it almost feels like an black and emerald runway, so to
Okay.
speak. And it's like a computer is um, like scanning me, and it's reading all my codes, but it doesn't happen all the time. It's like there's periods of times when I go there and get like a checkup, so to speak.
Okay. So, and does this always happen during your sleep?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Yep. It actually has happened one time. I've only done DMT a very select amount of times.
Right.
But it happened.
I'm all for it. So yeah, I get it. Yeah.
I had that experience after I had them in the natural and dream states.
Okay.
I had that show up for me when I did DMT one time as well.
Now I'm curious, because a lot of people are doing that for spiritual reasons. How was it different from the natural to the not, it's kind of natural, but you know what I mean.
That's a great question. I would say the DMT was much more vivid in a
Okay.
sense. It felt a lot more close up, and much more here, versus when the more natural route was more kind of full whole being, so to
Okay.
speak. The DMT was much more of a um, experience up here.
Okay. And so do you feel like you're accessing the same, frequencies or dimensions or anything under DMT? Do you feel, since you've had both experiences, do you feel like you're accessing the same things, maybe just in a different way?
Yeah, I think that
Okay.
it's the same like sphere, so to speak, of consciousness, right? That's often how I understand consciousness as like music of the spheres. Um, and so I think it's the same sphere, but it's like the lens shifts.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Gotcha. But yeah, it does. But you still think it's the same thing. Yeah. It's just, yeah, through a different lens.
Yeah.
I've heard of a lot of people talk about when they've done things, like DMT or ayahuasca or, any of those things, that they've had experiences where someone has come to them during that experience and said, you're not supposed to be doing this way.
Mm-hmm.
You're supposed to be doing it more, the natural way, and meditation and, all the holistic stuff.
Yep.
Have you ever heard that or ran into that or had that kind of experience or?
I personally have not had that experience, but I have heard of that.
Okay.
When I went down into the Amazon jungle and I learned Kambo with some of the members of the Shipibo tribe.
Wow.
And I had a real initiation with them. I've done, and this was over 10 years, I've done a couple Aya ceremonies,
Explain to people what Kambo is so that they know.
Yeah, so Kambo is medicine from the giant leaf frog or giant monkey frog, and the frogs only secrete this mucus if they're in the Amazon jungle. So if you take the frogs out of the jungle, they don't make the mucus, which
Isn't that amazing? Isn't that cool?
absolutely love it.
I do
Yeah.
too.
So Kambo is non-psychoactive. It lasts about 20 minutes and roughly about 20 minutes, and it's just a purge. This can be physical, mental, emotional, or spiritual. Um, and so it is a major shift, or it can also be a really gentle guide back. So
Right.
most people will physically puke, but then there are other ways of purging, like emotional, or in one of my sessions, I laughed for 20 minutes, and that was the medicine that I
That'd be
needed.
the best fun. Yeah.
Right, right.
Yeah. That's the only reason I haven't tried, or even thought about doing ayahuasca is because of the vomiting. I mean, I'm sure, but yeah, I just can't. I just don't want to do that. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Maybe this. What's the one where they I don't know if they puncture or burn or whatever the back of your neck? Do you know what that one is?
So Kambo, we do the burning.
Oh, okay. I was thinking that's what it was, and then okay.
Yeah, so
So what's the?
do it on different. You can see here I have some dots here.
Oh yeah.
Right, dots. That's from the Kambo.
And do they do it a lot on the back of the neck?
They can, yeah.
Oh, okay, because every time I've seen that done, it was always right there.
Okay,
And
interesting.
what's the purpose of that?
To clear your energy, honestly.
Okay.
Whether that be your immune system as well, whether that be your physical body, your mental, your spiritual, emotional, whatever.
Okay.
It's a reset. Actually, Kambo has dozens of peptides, and now they're doing a lot of research into it because people with autoimmune disorders are seeing significant improvements, cancers, HIV, stuff like that. Uh,
Huh.
and but they can't make it in the lab, right?
No. Well, if
Yeah,
it can't be made in the lab, then it's going to be banned because we have to
right.
make sure that we make money off of it.
Right.
Yeah,
Uh,
I'm not even going to go down that road this time. But
so yeah, my initiation in um, the Amazon jungle was so I went down there to again kind of the relationship that I went through. I had to really do some healing on my womb space.
yeah.
Um, and so for me, it was like I had that invitation to go meet and train with the Shipibo.
Yeah. And why not? That's the perfect time.
Of course, right? Like,
Perfect timing.
what an incredible opportunity as well.
Yeah.
You jump on that. Um,
Yeah. For sure.
yeah, and so when we actually went into the jungle, and I mean we had machetes in hand, walking through the jungle at night, like just I'm like I look back at myself and I'm like, girl, who are you?
Yeah. Like, what are you doing? Yeah.
Um,
That would be so much fun.
yeah, like that makes my soul alive, right?
Yeah. That
Uh,
would be amazing.
but I can honestly say through my uh, all my experiences that I have had on the planet, that initiation was the most scared I have ever been in my entire life.
And
I
what were you scared of?
um I went completely black. Like I was in the void and I was lost in the void. Like I there was nothing, absolutely nothing. There was pure blackness, but I was lost in the blackness. That it was the and so again I started to wake up from that consciousness and again I went back out and went even deeper and the oh your audio.
I wonder if maybe the battery died. Can you hear me now?
Man,
Okay. Well, I've got a two set thing, so I'll just plug this one in somewhere here. Okay. Sorry about that. Continue.
and so when I was the second time I went under, we call it's fainting essentially.
Okay.
It's not common for people to faint, but it's not unheard of either. Um, and that's when the medicine is really, really deep, right? Uh,
Right.
and I was in complete blackness, and I mean, all my senses were off, and what started to come into was this vibrate. I started to sense a tribe and I could just feel the vibration that they were like calling me to them.
Wow.
And that was the only thing in this endless blackness that I could sense was this tribe and this vibration. And so I just went towards them. And then when I woke up that night, um, I had we went into the jungle and we had the frogs on us, and the spirit of Kambo showed up in the pictures.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
and so they say the spirit of Kambo was a green being in humanoid form.
Okay.
So the way that the Shipibo people told us, it sounded like it was ET. So there was Chief Kambu. He was the chief of his tribe. And so back then, the medicine man was the chief, right? Which
Right. Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah.
And so his entire tribe was sick. And so a green being in humanoid form, again, they kind of insinuated this was not, this was it.
Terrestrial. Yeah.
Yep. Came to him and gave him instructions of how to heal his people. And it was through the frog.
And so that's where it started.
Yep.
Awesome. I love that.
So in the photo, you could actually see the green being in humanoid form and the chief.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That is so cool. So how long did that journey last? How long were you down there doing that?
We were in the jungle, or in Peru for only like 10 days, 10, 12 days, something like that.
I have to ask you, if you're in Peru, did you go to Machu Picchu?
I did not. No,
Oh,
no.
that's like my dream. That's like the one place that I want to go. So it's calling to me. Do you know what I mean? I don't even have a passport. I've never left the country. I don't really travel. I'm not really a traveler, but I want to go to Machu Picchu so bad.
I know.
You
I'm
know?
something that I'm learning as I'm learning to have a lot more fun with
Yeah.
my galactic assignments because
Yes.
um,
That's what life is all about. We're supposed to follow our joy and, our passions,
yeah,
and, serve people and, be helpful. And if you're truly happy, like if you're happy and living like that, then that's what you're supposed to be doing. That's your path. That's where if everybody just follow their joy. Like I like to always ask people, if you could do anything you wanted to do as a job
yeah,
and make money, what would it be? And be able to pay your bills, what would it be? And then when they say that, I'm like, okay, that's what you should be doing then.
yep,
There, especially nowadays, there's always a way to do it.
yep,
You just have to follow your heart, and your passion.
yep,
So
yeah. So that's actually what I help people with now.
nice. I
Yeah,
love that.
where it's like you kind of blend that with the downloads and
Right.
the remembrances that people are getting. It's like, no, you're tapping in there. That's guidance there. That's some of it is just for you at that individual level, right? For you to experience and know. Sometimes keep for yourself, and then there's times where and the difference where it's coming through you and you're supposed to do something with it, right?
Yeah, it definitely feels different than other time. I get it, for sure. I mean, it's funny because and just as an example, I'm a creative, I'm an artist. I'll have to show you some of my jewelry later, but I've always been an artist. Any kind of job that I've ever done has always been something creative, web design, photography, acrylic nails, anything. It was always something creative. And I like doing, I did this room, and I like doing creative stuff.
Yeah.
So when I decided to start doing hypnotherapy, I was like, well, that's not creative. But even though it wasn't creative, I just knew in my soul that this is what I was supposed to be doing right now.
Yep.
As a matter of fact, I'm like kind of big into human design now. I've always been into astrology, but I'm big into human design now. I've used it a lot in my business and my personal life now. And I got one of the talking charts they have at Genetic Matrix. And I got the shadow chart first because, on the main, you can get your chart for free, but then you got to look up all the stuff. I would just rather have somebody read it to me, or I'll be on the computer all day, and nobody wants to be on the computer all day. And so I did that shadow chart one. And when it got to that part, it literally said, and I had already started this before that, it literally said, you should be you need to be a counselor or a therapist.
Mm.
And I was like, okay, that's why I am so passionate about this. This is definitely where I'm supposed to be right now.
Well, and I think too, being a Scorpio, you
Yeah.
have the ability to really connect with people at such a deep, deep, deep level.
Yeah.
And that's by design.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's all by design. Everything's by design. For sure. I believe that.
If you don't mind me asking, I almost asked that in the beginning. If you were familiar with human design, would you mind sharing what your profile or your design?
Oh, I'm an emotional generator.
Okay.
Yeah. 3/5 martyr heretic.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's so interesting. I love going through it, and just even now, like if I'm just, I'm one of those people that I have to have music to work, not like work over online, but if I'm just doing something, or even if I'm in the shower, anything, I need music. I'm a music person. I need my music. And, but I've been like putting those on and then just listening to them, even though I've already listened to it, it doesn't hurt to do it again. And it seems like every time I find something new, and it's like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Even if you didn't hear it before.
Yeah.
Because, if you're not ready for it, you're not going to hear it. So.
Well, that's the thing.
I love that.
Yeah, it's like I implement human design and astrology and a lot of values work into how I help people. And the reason is it's like, especially when you're getting these really strong downloads and, experiences, all this creativity that's really kind of working through you. These certain tools, like your values assessment, which is really understanding your subconscious brain. That's all it really is. And your human design and astrology, those help ground you. They are they're filters to when you're really connecting in, and really you could kind of sometimes be like, all right, how does this translate into this reality, right?
Yeah.
That's how you get to use these filters like human values, astrology. It's okay.
Yeah.
Here's the pure source coming in, and then here's the kind of like filters that it gets to ground through, right?
Yeah. I think it's so beneficial that I actually include a genetic matrix. They can get their free chart, obviously, but I include a talking chart. They can choose which one in my yearly program sessions. I include that because I think that, and for the ones that are just the single sessions, I've got an AI thing going on that I've designed that will help them get the information they need about their chart and about them. I think it's really powerful. I mean, I've always been a huge believer in astrology. In my early 20s, I did natal charts, but I did them by hand. I had the ephemeris, and I did, which is weird because I don't like math. I'm not a math person. Technology I can do, and I can code and all that kind of stuff, but I don't know how I did it. But back in the day, that's how you did it before we had all the technology stuff. But I've always been, and then when human design came around, I didn't really know a lot about it. But once I started digging into it and talking to people, and it's like, yeah, this is cool. I need this. As a matter of fact, I had AI make me, for my Google Calendar, like just a little daily, it has like my gates and my transit, and like the suggested what you need to, pay attention to today and things like that, which has been really helpful. I love it. I love human design. I think it's amazing.
It is like it's such a practical way. Like I look at it as like your human software.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
It's like
exactly.
Your practical tools
Yep.
that you get to use over and over and keep growing with it.
Yep. You can put that CD back in and yep, exactly.
Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah, it's beautiful. So
I never heard it called that, but yeah, I actually think that's right on point. Yeah. our
There's even
software. I love that. I'm going to start using that. I like that.
absolutely,
That is so cool.
yeah.
So, do you have anything else you want to share about your, ET experiences?
Do you mind if I share one more thing?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. You, until you're done talking, you just keep talking. We're
Um,
good.
so this is for my Lyran brothers and sisters.
Mm.
Save the best for last year.
Yeah.
Uh, so
And real quick, before you start, Lyran doesn't necessarily just mean the feline species. There are other species, just so everybody knows, in that, Lyran sector, right? Okay.
yep, there are kingdoms within kingdoms, I call it,
Okay.
right?
Cool.
And so Lyrans have always showed up for me throughout my entire life. One time before I even knew anything about the Lyrans, right?
Mhm.
I just kind of woke up one day and I was like, oh, I get my Lyran genetics from my dad. I just knew it.
Just new. Yeah.
I just knew within 30 seconds my dad texts me. And
Wow.
yeah, and then I responded and didn't hear anything back from him. It was just that
It
demonstration.
was that timing. Yeah. It was that. Yep.
Yep,
That's what it
exactly.
is. Yep.
And so, and this is kind of my most recent experience with them.
Okay.
Um, so I sit on the board here in Phoenix at a place called the Ascension Chamber that uses the Tesla technologies, the Tesla coil noble glasses, and then the multi-wave oscillators.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah. If you're ever in Arizona,
I have family down there, so
there's there's so
I
many
might have to. Yeah.
there's so
I
many
want to move to Sedona. Like that's my dream. I want a house there.
yeah.
So I get it. Yeah.
No, there's so many amazing people here who are really connected. But
Yeah.
yeah, so recently I was in, I just had no desire for food. Like, and I was going on like 3 days, and like I am somebody who loves food. Uh, and I could not eat. And it was like 3 days. And then I called my friend, the owner of the Ascension Chamber, and I said, like, hey, brother, would
An
you?
ascension symptom, isn't it? Yeah.
Um,
Or if you change if you're like always eating like burgers and fries or whatever, and you switch to whole foods and salads and things like that, I think that's
sure.
an ascension symptom.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I called him and I was like, hey, like I'm getting a really strong ping to go have a session in the chamber. Would you mind if I, stepped in? Uh, yeah, of course, and so the most loving person ever. Like he embodies and lives Christ consciousness.
I
Like
love that.
really, really, truly. Um, and so in the session, I of course, immediately just, and this is after 3 days of fasting, right?
Mhm.
So I go immediately. I just go up to the Starship Bethlehem, and I my intention was to allow my soul to guide me to where I needed to go for that session. Um, and so immediately I went to the Starship Bethlehem, and then my soul took me to an insectoid being. And then
Like a mantis or different?
looked like a mantis. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Yep. And then he was like, I'm gonna guide you here. Right. And so I went inside. It felt like I was inside of a sun, inside of the sun. and he was, I don't know if I didn't have any physical, there was nothing physical about me at this point.
Right. You were
It was
just like light body.
pure light body, but this insectoid was monitoring me,
Okay.
so to speak, and he was taking me to my Lyran genetic through that. And I was, when my consciousness was inside of this, like, it was just everything was light, right? And I was like, where are where are my Lyran, where are my beings here? And he was like, there's no physical in this, there's no physicality in this Lyran genetic. So
Okay.
it was purely just exploring the genetics um, of the Lyrans, and this insectoid just told me um, there's no beings at this light frequency,
Okay.
or no
So no beings, okay. So no physical beings, but were you able to, converse with anybody? Did you have any like feelings or thoughts or anything like
No, I wasn't conversing with anyone other than the connection that I had to this insectoid.
that?
It was
Okay.
literally just light, and that was the genetic experience. But it was like we were all that. How do I explain this?
Like the light was that entire species.
Yes.
It was more of a, I don't want to say hive mind, but what's the word I'm looking for? Um,
Similar
yeah,
realm.
not hive mind, but kind of, yeah, I got you.
Yeah. Yeah. It was
And what kind of impressions did you get from that?
that's a great question. I just got
Okay.
ease and light.
Comfort, love.
Yes, love,
Okay.
absolutely. I think that it was simple. And I think that simplicity really and truly is one of the highest forms of intelligence.
Yeah,
It,
that makes sense,
yeah.
It
Um,
does.
there was no language there. It was purely, and it um, was beyond telepathy.
Okay. What do you mean by beyond?
Um, it just was existence.
Yeah. And everything's instant, kind of
Yep.
instantaneous. Okay.
There was no disconnection from.
Source or each other.
Yeah.
Okay. So is this the only experience that you've had then with an insectoid?
I've seen them, but I haven't had a lot of like,
Conversing with them.
yeah,
Interactions.
some of my experiences when I've kind of traveled on the Starship of Bethlehem, I feel that I've kind of ran into them, so to speak. But I've never, this was the first one that I actually got to have an engagement with.
That's so cool. And, because a lot of people, especially if there's people that are just starting their journey with extraterrestrials or have just had an experience, a lot of them might feel that that's a scary entity or, type of being. And how do you feel about that? I personally think that they're not scary, but how do you
No,
feel?
yeah, I don't think they're scary at all. I feel a really loving energy from them.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that it it really is up to you to how you connect with them.
Yeah. The energy that you give off is the energy you're going to bring back. So, yeah.
Yeah, they're not harmful at all. Like I really don't even know if they could cause harm. Like I'm sure that they could, but their consciousness is past that. They know that if they do, there's consequences for that, you know. So
Right.
I really
Yeah, it makes sense. So just on the, visual factor, you see a lot of mantis beings in, alien and UFO culture, pictures or drawings or whatnot. Can you describe, do they have, legs, or do they look more like the kind of praying mantises that we have, in this dimension? The insects we have here. Or do they have legs like humans, or?
they had legs, but they weren't like humans. I can't. They're
More
just
like the actual insect, maybe, or?
yeah.
Okay.
It wasn't like human legs. It
It
was
wasn't like the five pointed, 2 legs, 2 arms, that kind of thing. It
no.
was just more like what they look like here in our world.
Yeah. And very. They have a very non-threatening energy. That's the
Do they
best.
have a color? Or
I
they,
So for me, the last experience that I had, it was like a gray green,
okay.
a gray green with maybe tints of blue in there.
Okay.
And that was just my experience.
Yeah. Well, and I don't think people realize that just like us, there's going to be different colors.
Yep.
We are all different colors too. So I would imagine that they have variations as well. I would think, except for maybe the grays, but I don't know. How do you feel? What's your opinion on the short grays, the little ones that most people have experiences with? What's your reading of those?
I I don't connect strongly with them. I get it, like if I try to, my consciousness just kind of boomerangs me out, so to
Okay.
speak.
That makes sense to me a little bit, because I'm under the understanding that the smaller ones are more like, androids. And, they still have the skin or whatever, the biological, but, more over like a robot, and don't have feelings and things like that. So maybe that's why you don't get a reading off of them.
Yeah,
That would make sense to me.
yeah, to kind of, I guess, piggyback off of what you just said there, I kind of see a lot of the small gray beings like scouts.
Yeah.
Like they're,
Or workers, maybe.
yeah, workers. There's a little bit of, there's just kind of like an emptiness of the soul within them.
Yeah. Because they don't really have one, I don't
Yeah,
think.
yeah.
But again, I could be wrong. I don't know. But yeah, and who do you think's in charge of them? You think it's like the tall whites, or?
I don't think it's the tall whites.
Hmm.
Um, but for me, when I think of tall whites, I think Pleiadian.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm thinking more of the ones that kind of look like the grays. Their faces are a little bit more elongated
Okay.
and they're taller, but they kind of are very similar to the grays. Seems like maybe their faces have a little bit more definition when it comes to maybe cheekbones, or, the jaw, things like that, chin. I don't know. That was just my understanding, just from all the information that I have, acquired, that they were the ones who, you know, control and built the small ones, the small grays that everyone's so familiar with.
Yeah. Yeah. I will be very honest and transparent. I don't, I, my awareness just really won't, doesn't connect in there.
Yeah,
I can't get
that
reading.
makes sense.
I
That
don't,
makes sense.
I don't try to, like, I can't, there's something, and I don't know if it's a protective thing or, what have you, but it's like,
Could be, or it just could be that, on a soul level, there's just not a connection there.
Yeah, most times I can track. I'm really good at tracking energy, especially energy signatures and stuff like that. But it's like it's almost like there's no charge in my vessel
Oh,
to
okay, yeah.
to track the
Yeah.
consciousness.
Well, I
There's
mean, that makes sense.
no charge to.
Yeah.
I couldn't answer that
I
honestly.
think you did actually, but yeah. I mean, from your point of view, and to me, it makes sense. So I think it will make sense to a lot of other people too who are familiar with, the little grays.
Yeah.
So it makes sense to me. But so, do you have any advice for, so let's say somebody who just had their first abduction experience? As an experiencer yourself, what would you tell somebody who just had their first experience?
I would say sit with it and experience it and process it and just feel it. Just be with the experience of it because they don't happen all the time. And you are going to be recalibrating. It can change your life. For many, it does. Know that you're not alone. You're not crazy. That's a
Those
big
are the
one.
big ones. You're not alone and you're not crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. And try to find peace and love and gratitude with it. I think that those are the really big ones because I do believe that a lot of the malicious abductions, so to speak, are that program's kind of gone and fizzing out now, and that we're really on a different timeline. So that a lot of the experiences that people are having is now there for guidance. It's for upgrades and for you to remember.
I love that. That's some really good advice. That's great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, I cannot tell you how much I appreciate you talking to me today.
Oh,
I just feel like, if people who are having these experiences can hear from somebody that has had the experience, they have a better chance of healing,
yeah.
Understanding it. So when it comes from someone that has had the experience, it means so much more for somebody who has just gone through it and, doesn't know what to think or what to do. So thank you so much for doing that for me. I really appreciate it. Is there anywhere you had said at the beginning to that, if somebody wants to contact you to reach out, how can somebody do that? And I'll make sure I put it in the show notes so that they can get a hold of you.
Yeah, you can follow me on Instagram, Lauren_Wyoff_. My website, www.lauren-wyoff.com. You can find me there. And yeah, I guess the last and final kind of thing that's hitting my spirit that's kind of coming through is the most spiritual thing that you can do is develop your character.
Yeah.
That is the most spiritual practice and most spiritual thing that you can do.
Your character and your your integrity.
Yep.
Things like that for sure. I agree.
And
I
then
love that.
your connection, you're connecting to higher intelligence. All of the rest of these experiences will naturally and organically unfold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good advice. I love that. Well, thank you. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for watching. If you've had a traumatic abduction experience and you'd like some help, or if you'd like to be on the show, you'll find the links in the description. And I'd really appreciate it if you'd like, subscribe, and share. It really helps me out.